Have you already decided to study abroad? However, you're debating whether you're going to study in Canada or Australia. Look no further because in this video, we are going to compare these two beautiful countries so that you can make the most informed decision as possible. Hey guys, it's me again, Coach MC, and you are watching Steady Live Explore Canada, and we are helping aspiring international students to achieve their dreams abroad. So lately, I've been considering to expand SLE to Australia, and I've been doing so much research lately, so I just want to share this with you as well. So I've been an international student in Canada, so I'm very familiar here. With Australia, I feel like I went back to zero. And considering all the angles, together we'll be able to figure out which country is best for you. And this especially if you're thinking to settle in the country where you're gonna study. So grab a coffee and let's dive into it. So let's start with the tuition fee. So the tuition fee really varies when you are studying in the city, or let's say you're gonna study in a small town. So let's say you're thinking to take a diploma in early childhood. Let's compare it here in Canada. You can still get it for about 26 or up to 30,000 Canadian dollars for a 2-year program. And what I noticed, it's kind of different in Australia. In able for you to take a 2-year diploma in early childhood, you still have to take the certificate program. So the diploma will cost you for about 16,000 Australian dollars, and the certificate will cost you 10,000 Australian dollars. So overall, it's about 26,000 Australian dollars, which is, like almost the same as Canada, but I find it a bit cheaper compared here. But if you're thinking to take a master's degree, I believe Canada and Australia is almost the same. They're both expensive. One thing that I found, which is very interesting, is the intake or the start of the program. So in Canada, you only have 3 options. Either you start your program on January, May, or fall. But in Australia, you have more options. So you can start the program every 2 months. So that is good for people that wanted to start their journey as international student, because let's say you got denied with your visa in Canada, you have to wait for 4 months or even a year to start your program. But in Australia, you can have many options when it comes to the program availability. One thing that makes Canada different from Australia is the working rights of the spouse of our students here. So in Canada, whether you take master's degree or diploma, your spouse can actually work here full-time. So sometimes a student in Australia had to take the master's degree because if you're bringing your family member with you, the spouse will have more benefits when it comes to working in Australia. Next one, which is kind of different as well in Australia, is the student visa process. So both Canada and Australia, they require the student to be registered or enrolled in a school that is recognized by the country. So in Canada, we call it DLI school. And in Australia, they call it CRCOS. But there are 3 things that I noticed which is kind of different in Australia compared here in Canada. So when you process your student visa, in Canada, you're actually not required to take the IELTS examination. So sometimes the student has to take this examination because the school actually requires them to take one. But if you're applying for the visa, this is not actually a requirement. But when you check out the Australian website, the student has to take the IELTS examination. But I believe this is going to depend on the program that you are going to take in Australia. Another one that I also noticed is the proof of funds. So in Canada, they specifically tell you how much you will need here for your cost of living, and then you have to add up your tuition fee. And then I researched on Australia, and I saw a lot of vloggers claiming that they do not have proof of funds. But actually, when you check out the website of Australia, they actually require the student to have the money to study abroad. It's just that the Australian website does not tell you how much you will need to bring to Canada if you study. So you basically have to calculate it yourself. But in general, whether you go to Australia or Canada, it's better to have your money ready, right? It's better to have that proof of funds ready, just in case the embassy asks for it. One more thing that you also need to include with your Australian student visa application is your health insurance. So this will cost you for about 1,000 AUD, more or less. But here in Canada, you actually don't need it when you apply for your student visa. You will need this when you're about to arrive in Canada, once you have your student visa approved. So I'm just wondering, what if you got refused? Can you get the money back? So this is different, right, with Australian student visa processing. So you need to have this ready when you submit your visa. And another one which is different with Australia and Canada is the cost of the student visa application. So in Australia, it will cost you for about $650, but in Canada, it's cheaper. So for student visa application, it will only cost you for about $150 and $80 for the biometrics. Our next point is very important to those people who wanted to stay longer in that country after graduation. So in Canada, it's very simple when it comes to the postgrad work permit. You just have to go to a DLI school that has the postgrad work permit, study for at least a year or 2 years, and then you can get from 1 year up to 3 years postgrad work permit. But in Australia, it's a bit different and complicated. So in Australia, the length of your postgrad work permit depends on the program that you're going to take. So let's say you're going to take a vet course. This can give you up to 18 months of postgrad work permit. But if you're taking a degree, for example, bachelor's degree, you can get up to 2 years, master's will be 3 years, PhD will be 4 years. The higher the degree, the longer postgrad work permit that you will be getting. Another one that I noticed, which is different in Australia, is they do have age limit when it comes to postgrad work permit. I mean, in Canada, you don't see that. They do have age limit, which 50 years old. And another one is you might have to take the IELTS examination again. It's crazy. You just took that when you're about to come to Australia, right? So in Canada, when you apply for a postgrad work permit, it's very simple. You don't have the IELTS examination, and they actually did not specify any age limit. And the postgrad work permit is pricey in Australia. So this will cost you for about 1,700 Australian dollars. But in Canada, it's about 250 Canadian dollars. So that's pretty cheap, right? Overall, I think these countries offer a lot of job opportunities. But the question is, what will be the possible permanent residency option for you? Comment below if you're considering to move to these countries, and we are going to discuss that in the next video. Make sure that you subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!